Merry Christmas, and welcome to the Shepherd and the Fold. I've come down many chimneys, and I've checked the list twice, and the list will find out who is naughty and nice. I've seen who's sleeping, and who no longer sleeps under any roof. Tonight I bring no gifts because some children are no longer there to receive them. This is going to be an audit of stewardship, a measurement in the key of living tradition, not of what the Church believes. That is God's alone, not of doctrine or miracles or holiness, but of what the Church was trusted to protect and what was allowed to slip away. 4 rows on the ledger tonight, 1 of surplus. Tonight will measure only what can be measured here on earth. The care promised against the care delivered, the harm prevented against the harm left in shadow. The parchment is currently blank. The candle burns quiet. The water waits for washing. And on this feast of Stephen, the first who gave his life for the child in the manger, we begin. On this winter morning, let us ledger all the good that has been done. Catholic hospitals, thousands strong, scattered like stars across every continent, doors flung wide, day bleeding into night, night bleeding back into day. Lights that refuse to dim, hands in habits, hands in scrubs, pulling babies from the thin air of almost never. Doctors shocking hearts back into rhythm or catching cancer before it learns the child's name, cradling the dying like they're the only soul left on earth. Real, substantial, still happening right now while you sit here listening. And somewhere in the frost of a midwinter that tries to own the world, a love burns quiet but fierce, a flame that thaws the lost, leading night straight into morning, a light no darkness has ever learned how to kill. Catholic schools, mud brick and candle smoke in villages the maps forgot, all the way up to stone halls that birthed the modern world. Kids learning letters by firelight that should have gone out long ago. Learning hope where hope was told it didn't belong. Learning futures their parents only visited in dreams. And now those same kids stand in front of new kids, passing the light like it's the easiest thing in the world. Because when you give of yourself, you don't give a little. You give everything. And life keeps giving back to life, while the rest of us just stand here, witnessing. In the spirit of Caritas, my elves look like amateurs. When the ground splits open, when the water rises angry, when war spits families in the dead of night. They're already there. Not in meetings, not in committees, already there. Blankets unfurling like wings, food to fill bellies, medicine to give hope. A hand finding another hand in the dark, pulling it toward tomorrow. Documented in cold ink by nations that don't even believe. Signed in tears by strangers who woke up neighbours. Where hatred festers, they sow love and that bears fruit. Where injury bleeds, they forgive. Where darkness pools, they shine like God. Where despair sits heavy, hope, that stubborn thing with feathers, perches in the soul and sings the song without words and never, ever stops. This is the light the Church has carried, and still carries, into every shadowed corner, every forgotten edge of the world. A witness no honest eye can turn away from. A surplus of grace you can touch with trembling hands. Taste on the tongue of the grateful, measure in lives that refuse to end, recorded with the same fierce rigour as every scar, every wound, because truth refuses to let us skip this chapter, because love demands we speak the good, out loud, unashamed, with voices that shake the dark, before we ever dare name what still hurts. the teaching of optio preferentialis pro pauperibus, or the preferential treatment for the poor. I have flown over the world on Christmas Eve for more years than any calendar can hold. I have been to every house, every single one, even the ones without a house. I have seen the tables set in both kinds of houses. In one diocese, the cathedral glows like a gift itself. New marble laid smooth as ice on a pond, chandeliers restored, sparkling like stars brought indoors. Budgets for beauty that never run dry, because the house of God, they say, deserves the best. And in another diocese, just a few borders away, a mother counts coins for bread, 3 coins, 4 children, doing the math that has no good answer, while the church bells ring for midnight mass. A soup kitchen turns people away because they have no more. A school for the poorest children sends them home early. No money for books, no money for light. In the same year, in the same church, under the same silent night. I have seen children standing at the gates of grand churches, faces pressed to the iron bars, watching the warmth inside while their breath freezes outside. A little girl who asked only for a coat and was told the collection was for the new roof. A boy who went to bed hungry on the night we sing of angels and abundance. A widow praying in the back pew, her fingers blue around her rosary, wondering why the heat works for the marble, but not for her bones. The poor are not numbers on a list I check twice. They are names I know by heart. They are the ones who still believe someone will come, hoping, praying. Every year I fly past houses with no chimney. I have gifts, my sack is full, but there is no way in. So I leave nothing, because there is nothing left to leave. And I remember their faces. I remember all of them. The question is not whether the church gives gifts. She gives many beautiful, life-saving gifts. The question is, why does the church sit at the table first? Why does the building open its stocking while the child's hangs empty on a wall with cracks the wind sings through? A stocking that will stay empty because someone decided that beauty mattered more than warmth. A cathedral restored does not wrap small arms in warmth. A hospital built far away does not fill the bowl of the child next door. A new roof over the altar does not keep the snow off a mother and her babies. Every year a choice is made. Every year the same choice is made again. And every year some children wake on Christmas morning and learn too early that the world prefers shiny things to warm ones. This ledger only asks quietly, like a child who stopped asking long ago, where did the money go? Whose table is full? Whose is bare? The teaching of Pastor Bonus animam suam dat pro ovibus suis, or the Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. They told us the shepherd would come running. They never told us he would send a letter instead. Some sheep called out and heard only the echo of their own voice echoing in marble halls. A family buried a child on a cold December morning. They waited at the door, remembering the ancient words about knocking and opening. They knocked. They waited. A statement arrived, carefully worded, signed by committee. A survivor cried in the night, alone in the dark, and recited the words back to themselves. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. But when they opened their own door, no one was there. Only process, only timelines, only the passive voice speaking of healing journeys and accompaniment in due course. As if grief keeps business hours. As if trauma respects a discernment process. Mercy delayed is not mercy. It is just another form of abandonment. Yet too often, The institution hid itself behind careful paragraphs, while the flesh, its own flesh, bled in the cold. The shepherd does not email when the sheep is drowning. He does not delegate when the sheep is lost. He is present. He kneels. He carries. But the institution waited. It calculated. It spoke of complex situations while the wound stayed raw. It spoke of further discernment while the nights grew endless. Trust erodes drop by drop, not in one great flood, but in 100 small silences. The unanswered call, the unread message, the statement that arrived after the funeral flowers had withered, the absence where presence was promised, and lo, I am with you always. I have stood outside many doors on Christmas Eve. I have knocked softly. I have waited in the snow. I know the weight of a door that does not open. I know what it means to believe someone is coming, and to learn, slowly, that they are not. The ledger measures the time between the cry and the coming. When that time becomes months, becomes years, becomes a lifetime. It records the slowest kind of loss. The quiet death of believing that I am with you always still applies to you. And yet there is a silence deeper still. A silence that was not about absence. A silence that was about knowledge. About doors that did not open because someone chose to keep them closed. Not because the shepherd was busy, but because he knew what was waiting on the other side, and did nothing. I would now like to visit the teaching of qui scandalisaverit unum de pusillis, or the idea that whoever causes one of these little ones to stumble, it would be better a millstone were hung around his neck. I apologize for being silent for so long. I only speak now because I realize that silence can be seen as complicity. The very church that taught idea of the millstone, those words, that teaching, that warning, they forgot. And the very systems moved as if they had a millstone hung around their neck. Slowly, the wolves that the church found were moved to new pastures, so the fold would not ask uncomfortable questions. A child in Pennsylvania. He told a priest what happened in the dark. The diocese heard. They moved the priest, instead of removing the priest. A child in Germany. She carried the silence for 17 years. By then the man who carried it to her was already gone, moved, reassigned, his file sealed like a confession. A child in Australia. He spoke once. No one listened. The silence stayed with him longer than the man who caused it. A child in Canada that goes missing. And another. And another. They told the children, this is God's will. They told the parents it was a mistake. They told the next parish, the priest is healed, it's a miracle. And yet it was God's will. It was not a mistake, it was a choice. A choice to move, not remove. A choice to protect the institution instead of the child in the dark who whispered and was answered with distance. Hundreds, then thousands, then hundreds of thousands. Not cases, not statistics. Children who learned that the shepherd will come for them in the dark, but never in the light. Children who learned that the fold is not safe. Children who learned that a hospital opened does not untouch what was taken. That a grave unmarked does not silence a name. That a policy written 20 years too late does not return the years the child endured alone. The ledger measures what was lost in those years, what will never be returned. It will never forgive you of your sins. Judge not lest you be judged. That is not a threat to this ideal. The ledger welcomes judgment, welcomes accountability. These are not indictments. These are pastoral gaps, wounds the Church herself has named, stories she has already admitted. A church does not collapse from honest examination. It collapses from refusing its own ancient call to repent and repair. St. Gregory the Great, the pastor must first be physician to his own household. This ledger is a physician's quiet diagnostic, not a sentence. The way forward is simple. No dogma need change. No council need convene. Strengthen safeguarding worldwide. Rebalance resources toward the poor. Teach clearly. Walk closely. Invest in mission as fiercely as in maintenance. Speak swiftly, transparently, and without repose. Only stewardship, the ancient duty. The abbot must keep the strong from straying and the weak from being crushed. This ledger does not weigh holiness. Holiness belongs to God alone. It weighs only the place where promise meets pasture, where the voice of the shepherd meets the cry in the dark. These aren't statistics. These are children who never got to grow up. Wounds still fresh. This ledger will be the tool that remembers their names in a language the Church forgot. Augustine said, Ecclesia semper antiqua, semper nova. Ever ancient, ever new. Ancient in truth, new in its courage to heal itself. The counting continues, ever forward moving, ever alive. The light above and the water below.